Welcome to the Endless Entrepreneurs YouTube channel. My name is Luke Henson. I am a eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari seller. I also invest in real estate. I buy and hold residential long-term rentals, and I work full-time in the corporate world. I use this channel to document primarily the first two businesses and share tips and tricks and just kind of best practices and really document my journey growing both those businesses here on this channel. For today, I'm going to be covering why I am opening a second eBay store. I've been selling on eBay for many years, all on one store. And for the first time, I've been considering opening a second additional store, which I have pulled the trigger and I'm going to do now for sure. I just want to talk about why I'm doing it. And then also, since I'm talking about that topic, is talk about whether I think it's necessary to have a second or multiple stores, when the scenario would be right to have them, what are the benefits, etc., as we go about that. This will be a live show. So I will be interacting in the chat as we go, mostly Q&A at the end. So if you're watching for a second time, that is why. And I will try to get to all the questions I can. So I'm just going to jump right in and talk about why I am actually going to be opening a second store. It's kind of out of necessity. My business has evolved, and just kind of give some backstory. I used to primarily thrift only, so Goodwills, primarily apparel, flipping like that. Now I buy in bulk, liquidation primarily. I've got a couple of different contacts, still all apparel with some accessories. And what's happened is the mix and the type of items I'm getting have kind of created an opportunity or a need for me to have a second store to offload some of this stuff. In addition, it's also, I think, going to be a unique opportunity for me to create some additional content around here in hopes to help some of you and some other either aspiring sellers, newer eBay sellers. A lot of the topics I go into here are around like more not seasoned sellers, but people who've been selling for a while and things to do your store. And I thought this is a great opportunity to start providing some context and some content to newer resellers who are kind of just jumping in. I really haven't done a lot of that content in quite a while. Just simple how-to videos, and being able to open the second store, I think, will be an opportunity for me to record and document that second store opening, growing, and kind of what that means. So let me jump in with kind of why primarily first I'm going to open a second store. I get a lot of flawed inventory. So what I mean by that is I get a lot of return inventory. I get a mixture of shelf pull and return inventory that comes in. And all the shelf pull quality and the great stuff is no big deal. It goes into what I call my machine. And what I mean by that is I have a VA who works for me and does all of my listing across all three platforms for me. I have some photographers on the contract, photographers who will do the photography for me. And so obviously I've built all that into my margins. So it makes sense to take the perfectly good inventory and put it through that and pay the overhead to have those items on there because, it's going to sell for a higher price. But I have with one of my suppliers, and it's probably my best supplier, it's about 10%, I would say, is items with flaws. And they're not flaws that are like unsellable flaws, like, it's just completely stained and ruined. Usually it's like a tiny stain or like a tiny snag or hole, but it's enough where it's like it's going to kind of chop the value in half. And then it gets kind of thin when I start calculating my margins. Is it worth it to take the overhead of having it listed by someone else on three platforms, photographed by someone else? Or is this an opportunity where maybe some of this extra time I have now that I've, freed up and delegated a lot of things in my business so that I can have more time to do content on here, more time to, grow and find other suppliers, just do things on the back end, handle the shipping. I thought maybe this was a good opportunity for me to still sell these items at a little bit of a profit, gain some capital back, but also a good opportunity to show growing a store from ground zero. I know quite about a year and a half, 2 years ago, Chris over on Daily Refinement did this and kind of documented growing a store from zero on up. And I think this will be a really, really good strategy and a way for me to develop content, and also a good way for me to get my money back on some of the stuff that I'm already buying. It's basically a sunk cost, right? Like I'm paying a set price for a pallet. It's coming with 1,000 pieces, let's say. If 10% of it is waste, if I wouldn't ordinarily sell it, but I can list it myself and still make some money on it. This is an opportunity for me to get capital back and be ROI positive. So that's the primary reason why I'm going to open the second store. It's going to be 100% apparel with flaws in it. A lot of it is new with tags, and so it'll be selling them new with defects, which is kind of its own category of its own. And then some of them are going to be new without tags and defects. And what I need to do some research on is figure out if I'm going to list them all regardless as new with defects, even if they don't have tags. I sell a lot of my items new without tags because that's what they are. So I need to figure out what's the best way to approach that. But I have a decent amount of them. I actually got a stack over here to the right, and it's just something where I have some extra time in my day. And I think my goal is going to be to list 5 of them a day. I'm not going to like huge volume, but just a little bit. And I know there's some restrictions in the beginning, but I'm going to see if eBay will lift the listing restrictions, simply because as a second store, I already have an existing selling record with my other store. I'm not sure how that works. We'll find out with eBay customer service. But that's primarily why I'm going to open a second store. And my plan, and the reason around the video, is twofold. One, I want to talk about what I'm going to do with the store, and then second, I want to talk about why I think there may be a need, or what the advantage could be of having secondary stores. So depending on if you market outside, it's one of the things I was thinking of, because so feedback is a bigger deal on eBay than probably some of the other platforms. Still, I think feedback is overrated on any of the platforms, because I think anymore sellers just pull the trigger, buyers just pull the trigger for the most part, just because they're kind of conditioned to expect that it's going to be fine. Amazon's kind of done that, created that facade, which I guess is a good thing. But I think that in general, looking at eBay, it's like I got used to dumping everything. Oh, sorry. Yeah, puppy kept me up all last night. Just sidebar, we have a new puppy, 12-week-old puppy, Bruno. Oh my gosh, he kept me up all last night. It's still in that early stages where he doesn't sleep all the way through the night, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. Well, let me grab some water here. All right, back to my original point. So I think as an eBay seller, we kind of used to just throwing all our items onto one account, because we got used to having the feedback, and we're like terrified to not have to build that up again, not want to do that. And honestly, I've only sold apparel with a little bit of things sprinkled in that weren't apparel, so I never worried too much about it. But I think now it'd be really good for me to separate the new with defects away from like a new with tag store, especially now that I'm pretty much getting rid of all of my used inventory. I would expect by like mid-spring, all of my used inventory, my non-new stuff's going to be gone. And one of my forward-thinking plans here is that eventually I'm going to start, I've contemplated a Shopify store for a long time, or some type of web-based store that's going to have a lot of my inventory in it. I think I'm still a while away from that, but I'm eventually going to get to a point where it makes sense to run ads, right? Whether it be Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform, for specific inventory, right? Like as I keep getting big liquidation lots, if I get a lot of the same type of item, they're all brand new, tags are nice or whatever, it may make sense to run some really targeted promotions to greater audiences to drive traffic. And when I do that, I don't really want to drive that traffic to a really mixed storefront where I have used stuff, new defect stuff, this wide range. I want to have a spot where when I'm doing promotions, like if I get like this last batch, I had probably like 60 Oakley, brand new Oakley golf polos, all like the dry fit, great ones, a bunch of different color variations, stuff like that. Like if I get big batches like that, and it makes sense to, during golf season to run a quick ad against a certain demographic and try to push them to those links, those out. Like I just want that storefront and that landing to be kind of clean. And I think that that's what I'm really thinking about moving forward. And I don't want to clutter it with a bunch of defective inventory. Even though there's a marketplace for it, and I think there's an ROI for it, I think it makes sense to kind of separate that, make it clean, so that if I want to have a marketing channel and push people towards something, I can. It'll just make it that much easier in my mind. So that's another big push, by the way, why I'm trying to get rid of all my used inventory. And again, this is not that selling used clothing is a bad thing, right? Or selling any type of used items like that. I think there's a huge marketplace for it. It's just now that I have steady liquidation coming in, it makes sense for me to kind of reconsider, clean up my processes, my presentation, and make that a viable thing. Overall, just kind of answering the direct question of, do you need to have multiple stores? I really don't think it's necessary as a seller, especially if you're in a narrow niche. Now, if you, and even like, I think Craigslist Hunter is a good example. Man, but he's a good example of like, he has a huge variety of items he sells, and they're all in one eBay store. Like he doesn't have to diversify into all these different storefronts. So I think he's a proven model, and he's shown that you don't have to have it. I think the real advantage, or when people need to start thinking about it, is if you're going to be marketing in a different way. If you're not just using the organic reach of the eBay platform or the organic reach of whatever platform you're selling on, and you're going to start targeting traffic. And that's just something that I've been thinking a lot more about. And I need to really get my foundation right, so that when I'm ready to pull the trigger on that and the economics make sense, it's set up to drive that pipeline. But I don't think, and I get this question a lot anyways, is, do I need to have a different store for different types of items? And I think in general, the answer is no. And unless you have a monster operation and there's some big advantages to you for that, I just don't think that there's a reason. Aaron said in the chat is that he may use multiple stores to help compartmentalize. And yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If it's cleaner and easier for you, and by all means, do that. I can see in the future, if eBay rolls out the staff accounts feature and they do it well, I can definitely see where having some separate stores may make sense to align a store to an employee. Where like if you have an employee that specializes in, let's just say, only preparing and prepping dresses, right? Same work, this unique workflow, all the same, blah, blah, blah. It might be easier just to track all of their items they're doing through one storefront and see how it does. I mean, I think there's some different ways you could experiment with it where it may be advantageous, but overall, I don't think it's necessary to have multiple stores. Just want to make sure I answer that directly since it is in the title. And I think it's an important conversation. People ask it pretty frequently. But yeah, so I'll answer that. But then, going back to, and there's a question in the chat. I'll answer it later. So someone just asked, how do you get store returns, new to reselling, etc. I'll answer that at the end. Great question. And I have other videos on it, but I definitely will address it at the end. So I'm going to check my list here. So we talked about kind of why I'm going to do this new store, what I'm going to push through, which is going to be my new with defects type items that I'm getting. It's going to be all that, all apparel and accessories. So they'll be specialized to that. And I plan to document the whole thing. And what I mean by that is I haven't opened the store itself. I'm going to do tutorials of actually opening the eBay store, what it looks like not having a storefront, and having to actually get a store subscription, what the feedback looks like from 0 on up. I'm going to start to answer some of the questions I get a lot from newer sellers. And to be honest, I feel really bad and out of touch. I think this is the other real reason is I feel very, very out of touch with beginning new resellers, and I want to be able to answer some of the simple questions and not that like people should be able to be resourceful and Google how to do this stuff, definitely, and I think that's a different conversation. But there are a lot of questions around hey, I only have 15 items up. What's the best way to get my first feedback or to encourage the feedback when I get a sale? Stuff like that, where I just haven't. It's been so long since I've been in touch with that I'm not able to accurately answer approaches. So this is going to give me the opportunity to kind of learn some of those nuances in the 2019 eBay environment. Whereas I started my account in the, I think I started my account 2010. So I haven't had those troubles, and I don't have that insight and that ability to respond to some of these other questions from the people in the audience. And I just want to be able to do that. And I'm hopeful that that'll help. I'm hopeful that it'll also encourage, I think there's a lot of negativity around getting these businesses off the ground and the ability to in the marketplace. And I'm going to show you a very unique niche, right? Selling new defect items is a pretty unique niche, especially in apparel. I mean, it's common, but it's also unique probably to a lot of people watching. And I'm going to show there's the ability to be profitable with it. And I know that there is because I'm selling these items on my main account. I was running my items of flaws through there, which I'm going to do it through this next account. But I mean, I know that it can be profitable. And I just want to show if you have your margins right and you understand your numbers and your presentation's good and you approach it the right way, it can be profitable. And my hope is that this can show that, and it can be a blueprint for newer sellers jumping in, whatever the niche is, that they have the confidence, the ability, they can get through some of the hurdles early on, and for instance, I can see running into listing restrictions. I can definitely see that's going to be one of the first ones, showing, videoing how to handle that. What is my conversation have with eBay? What did I say to them? How do I kind of work around and navigate around that? How am I encouraging feedback? All those things that I kind of get questioned on a lot, I'm hoping to answer through this process, and to kind of funnel those tutorial videos out in bits and pieces. So that's why I'm going to do it. I also, kind of coming full circle here is I'm already bought this inventory, and it's a great opportunity for me to get my money back on it, to add ROI to my time now that I've freed it up outsourcing some other stuff in my business. And it's going to be a good opportunity to get that, kind of back to the door instead of a lot of it. If I don't think for instance, I'm trying to give a good example here. It cost me $4.75 to run through kind of my machine to get it listed without me touching it. So when I'm getting inventory between $4 and $7 and it's flawed, and where normally if the item wasn't flawed, it'd sell for 30, and now it's going to sell for like 15, there becomes that like, all right, well, got it listed on the high end at 7, and I'm dropping $4.75 to prep it and get it listed. Now I'm leaving $3 on the bone there, and then after fees, like, is it worth it to even deal with the back end of shipping it, pulling it, and all that stuff, right? Now, granted, in my mind, you also have to consider if I bought it and paid $7 for it because I paid $7 for every single thing in that unit. If I don't list it, I'm losing that $7. So, it's a matter of trying to break even on that $7 plus maybe $1 or $2 of profit. So it's like kind of that cash flow capital perspective of when it's worth it. So, but that's my plan. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to spend, I'm going to try to be pretty consistent and just do like between 3 and 5 listings a day. I'm pretty much going to list them all the way from my phone. I am not going to cross post them on any platform. So I'm just going to do eBay only for it. eBay is probably in my opinion, is the best marketplace for defective stuff. I don't have a ton of experience selling defective stuff on Mercari, but for me, I think that it's the best place that I'm going to put it and have success unloading it. So. All right, I'm going to leave it. Let's say we got 55 watching live. I covered the main stuff I want to cover. And just to kind of recap people coming in, no, I don't think it's necessary to have multiple eBay stores to be successful. I do think there's a use for it. In my case, there's a use to unload defective inventory, to create tutorial videos and, kind of help the audience. But as someone made a point in the audience, it may be worth it for you to compartmentalize different items in different ways in different stores. And for me, in future state, I really want to do targeted traffic towards my main store. And I want to make sure my main store is clean and concise and all new tags and the right presentation when I start, paying to target traffic towards it from, external places, non-organic. So I will take questions now. I'm looking right through. I'll scroll up. I'll address the one question that I kind of tabled. You can ask any questions you want. It does not have to be about this topic. Like I said, over 50 people watching live. Feel free to ask any reselling related question you want, or personal to some degree. I will answer if it's in line. So feel free. So someone said at the beginning, I just want to answer here. How do we get the store returns? I'm new to reselling. I'm not looking for the exact answer, just direction. Love your most recent videos. Well, thank you for that. And I get this question a lot, which is, it's a good question, right? If you're trying to get out of single sourcing or going to thrift stores and things like that, obviously the next step is to start buying in bulk. So the best way I can recommend is, well, first, I always recommend going to some of the notable liquidators that are more public and probably are a little pricier, but you can experiment with getting some larger lots, like 100, 200 unit lots, just to understand what you're getting, what it looks like, how to process it. Because it's just a completely different game than going to the thrift stores, single sourcing things. It's just, I think it's a lower risk way. Like in one example is like a Smashlots or a bulk.com, or I think even Blue Lots has some stuff. There's just some I would say well-known, just some more public sites that offer liquidation that you can experiment with before you jump into like ordering a full pallet. Once you're ready to order that type of volume, like, a couple of pallets or a pallet, 1,000, 2,000 items, I think that the best way to do it is to basically message every single liquidator that you find in the Google search within whatever radius you want to buy within, and for whatever category you want to buy. And you just got to be upfront honest and say, I'm a newer seller looking to buy liquidation. I'm looking in this niche, willing to commit to this much volume per month. This is my budget. If anything comes in that looks like it's in my range, let me know. I can wire you the money, etc. Give them the confidence that you're going to purchase it. And, that's the best way. And that's actually what I did, right? Like, and I messaged so many people, and only one ever messaged me back, but ended up being my primary supplier I use now. So that's just my recommendation. That question came through. Said, how is your sell-through rate with new tag items in comparison to when you sold most used items? Great question. My sell-through has definitely gone up. I don't know. I don't attribute it to them being new tags though. And so here's why. The brands that I'm selling have shifted. So I'm selling a lot of what I would consider trendier brands. Like I'm selling a lot of Under Armour. I'm selling a lot of Nike, a lot of Adidas, a lot of those type of brands that, and like some specialized hunting gear brands and things like that that are coming through. So those are turning faster than when I was selling, dress clothes, basically blazers and suits. I was selling a lot of long tail stuff when I was in the used clothing game. So I was selling a lot of suits and blazers, which you got to kind of wait for that right buyer. A lot of vintage stuff, a lot of more home run items that just take longer to sell because you need to find the exact buyer. Whereas this is more commodity type based, I guess. Sorry about that. I would consider it very commodity based because it's stuff that you can find readily available anywhere. Whereas like when I was selling, certain high end brand suits and vintage sweaters and that is like you only could find them on eBay. There's a limited amount of them, things like that. Whereas now selling more of this new attack stuff, it's more of commodity based. It's hotter brands. There's people looking for it regular, but I'm also not getting the crazy margins that I was getting. Like I was buying suits for $10 and selling them for 120. Like I'm not getting that type of ROI on my items. I'm getting a buy for somewhere between $4 and $7, sell somewhere between 25 and 35 on a regular basis. Some of the home runs are 40, 50, 60, but the main meat of the order is in that like 5 to 25, 7 to 35 type range. So it's kind of like you got to pick your poison and what you're trying to do. For me, it makes sense to have that type of margin, to have that type of increased sell through to help scale. So Jeremy just asked, what is your average pallet quantity? So it varies because I have an agreement with my supplier where basically I've agreed to take all the apparel he gets. The specific person hates dealing with apparel. He says that we as apparel buyers are the worst to deal with for all of basically he has a massive liquidation operation. Many truckloads a week, huge warehouse. And he gets a very small percentage of apparel. And he says he hates unloading the apparel because we are the most picky, complaining people he sells to. So I basically offered, I said, if I agree to take all of it, no matter what, so you never have to worry about where it's going, good or bad, I'll take it, get it off your hands. Will you give me a price break on it and guarantee it? And he said, absolutely, kind of win-win. So sometimes the quantities, kind of a long way to answer that. Sometimes the quantities are, I get like this last order, I got 1,500 units and 2 pallets, 2 bigger pallets. I've gotten 4,000 units and 6 pallets because they're smaller items, some more like youth type stuff. I've gotten pretty much anywhere between 1 and 6 pallets in a delivery. And based on the mix is how many items fit in there. But typically somewhere between 400 and 800 items fit in a pallet, depending on the type of clothing. So hopefully that answered your question. Aaron said, is there a chain of custody with the goods you purchased to ensure authenticity? That's a really good question. So another reason why I have this, why he has a hard time unloading the apparel is because he sells to a lot of Amazon sellers. And these brands, one, it's really hard to get ungated in a lot of these brands that I'm getting, right? Under Armour, these type of things. Two, he's not able to provide like the documentation they need basically to prove like they bought it from the company. Where, so it's not like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not an Amazon seller, so in their terms how to sell it. But basically, like I couldn't provide the documentation I needed to Amazon to keep selling on there. I know where the goods are coming from. I know the store he has the contract with. Like that's all legit and authentic, so that's fine. Actually, it's funny. I used to work for the store way back when I was in like high school, the retail store. So it's funny just knowing that Full Circle selling their stuff now when I used to work for them. But I couldn't sell on Amazon, which puts me in a position to leverage as an eBay seller to get some of the stuff because people can't flip it on Amazon, or very easily they can't. Chris said, what is the size of your shelving and bins, or any recommendation? Thanks to the video. It helps a lot. No problem, Chris. So I did a video probably like 5 or 6 videos ago. If you scroll down, just sort by newest published when you look on my channel, and it says how to manage an eBay inventory or growing eBay inventory or something like that. I talk specifically, I linked those in the description of that video, the different shelving. I linked these ones, which I get at Walmart, like $37, I think, $38. They're 5-tier shelving. And these bins are 66 quart Sterilites. I think they're 16 inches wide and 13 and a half inches tall. But I linked the bins as well, so you can see they fit 2 perfectly on there. And then I use these Husky Varna wire rack heavy duty shelving in my garage and my shed where the rest of my stuff is. And I can fit 3 of those bins across. I usually get those at Home Depot, wait for them to be on sale. If you do it right with coupons and everything, you can probably get them for 50 or 60 bucks a piece. I've paid as high as 80 or 90, depending if the sales are running or not. I hope that answers that question. Any other questions coming through? I will answer if they come. Another thing I wanted to talk about with the new tag stuff, or with the new defense thing with opening the store, and I really want to quality control. And this was really a part of the growing pains of when I started to outsource a lot of this work. Was I would unpack these pallets, right? I would look over the inventory as best that I could, right, in garage light, not like under white lights where I can really see what's going on with it. Basically, throw it in bins, give it to my photographers. Photographers find it, they photograph it. If they're not looking and they don't find the flaw, it doesn't get photographed, doesn't get notated, the VA doesn't pick it up, doesn't get put in the listing. Eventually, I sell that as new tags in perfect condition, get it to a buyer. Buyer sees it, ends up, I have to I eat the shipping that I paid, refund them fully, and they keep the item. It's pretty much how I handle most of my returns. So what I'm trying to do here is another way to quality control that, right? Whereas I'm listing those, and I've also really shrunk down my photography outsourcing for a couple of reasons. One for accounting type reasons, one for just the way my model is shifting. But so now I'm doing a lot of that in house. I can quality control a lot more, and make sure I keep that separate so that not as many of those are slipping through. Hopefully that helps people understand another reason why I'm going that route. So Michelle just asked, what store level do you have and will you open? So right now I have a premium. I'm getting really close to anchor. I think last time I did the math, and I actually need to recheck it to see if it's changed with any of their tier structures going in 2019. But I needed about 3,800 active listings for it to be worth it to do anchor. So I'm getting close. I'm at like 34, I think, right now. I'm basically listing, VA is listing 30 items a day. I'm pretty much selling like between like 8 and 16 items a day. It's a really wide range. And this month has kind of been booming, so it's been harder for me to tell how many exactly across all 3 platforms. But to answer that, back to your original question, I will start with the basic store, and then I'll flip. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to research that. I'm gonna retract that, Michelle. I'm not sure if I might wait. I think 50 items becomes beneficial fee-wise to go to a basic store. And I may just do a store from the beginning just to have the abilities to promote and run sales and do all that. Although I'm not really sure that I want to do any of that with new defect items, simply because the margins are already lower, and I don't really want to concede more margin by promoting and marketing and giving sales and stuff like that. And just asked if I am okay. I am okay. I'm a little tired today. We have a 12-week-old golden retriever puppy that we added to the family not too long ago, and last night was my night to sleep with him. And he's too small to be on the bed, and it's too small that he can fit underneath our bed. So I sleep with him in a different room. But he had me up all night last night, so I'm a bit dragging tonight. I have to get to bed early. Hey, Justin, he said, long time since I've had a chance to tune in. Hope all is well. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. And Merry Christmas to everyone else. We're getting pretty close to the holidays here. It's pretty crazy. Hopefully you guys have all your shopping done, or if you have any last minute stuff, you have time to get out there and get it. I know I just mailed out all of my Christmas stuff to my family. Shannon and I actually aren't traveling home for Christmas this year for the first time since we moved to Charlotte. So we're just going to relax and hang out with some friends and chill here. So it should be interesting. It's going to be a completely new experience, not traveling and being around like the bigger family. Michelle said, would it be cheaper to open 2 premiums instead of an anchor? That is a great question. I'm not sure. Best way to do that, though, is to take the amount of items you have actively listed and kind of calculate out the fee structure based on what it is, what it costs per month the premium, what the discount is on each item that's over the free items you get through the premium, and then you should be able to figure out what is the best way to go. I would just throw it in a spreadsheet, mess around with it till you figure out what the right point is for it. Chris has said, thanks, Luke. I'm a fan since LL Bean. Man, LL Bean. So for any of you people new to my channel, my first ever bulk buy, Chris is referencing, was in May 2000 and was that 17? Yeah, that was May 2017. Wow. So I bought 4 pallets. It was 3,000 pair of new without tags. Well, that's not true. Like 30% of them were new with tags. And the other 70% weren't. All assorted LL Bean shelf pull quality pants. And they were probably 65% women's, 35% men's. I got them for $1.15 a pair. Honestly, it was probably one of the cheapest per unit buys I've had since continuing to bulk buy now. Not a hot brand, definitely a slower seller, but believe it or not, I mean, I'm still selling through those. I mean, we're talking 18 months later. I've got probably a third of them left, but I've sold probably I have to go look at I'd have to look at the numbers, but if I had to estimate, I've definitely sold over half of them in 18 months. I think it's closer to 2/3 of them, but I made my money back like probably like 6 months in. I made all my money back, and so every pair that's sold since then is like pretty much pure profit minus the shipping and fees. So it's been great to just have those still rolling out. I probably sell 10 of them a week right now. It seems like this winter. I definitely sell heavier in the winter. They don't sell fast, but they steadily sell. Like the women's ones sell for about $15 shipped, pretty steady. And they all pretty much ship first class except for the jeans. So they're pretty cheap to ship them. And then the men's ones ship, I'll get them in a flat rate envelope, and they all ship usually pretty solidly between like $18 shipped and like $22. And I get the nice part with them is a lot of buyers buy many of them. So they buy multiple quantities all at once. Ends up pretty great. So that always can save on shipping that way. Let me see what else we got here. I can't believe you just referenced LB. That's funny. I was thinking the other day I was in pulling some sales out, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember how long ago this was. Like I remember it took up like, I mean, it was like my whole inventory. I mean, it just seemed like all the time, like every bin was LB, and now it's like it's such a small part. It's really nice. Marco just asked, do I store all that clothing in your home? So I store it here where I live, but it's I have a detached garage and a detached 10 by 12 storage shed, like one of those like lawn, like gable style sheds. So I would say 90% of the inventory's out there. I just have these two shelves here. This is like my eBay room where I do a lot of my prep work. This is just accessories. They're like really lightweight. There's some shorts and stuff, but primarily all accessories that I keep inside because they're lightweight, and this is a second story. I have a little bit of stuff in the attic, but I'm trying to consolidate that because my wife Shannon has made the claim that she would like a lot of the attic space back for our other stuff. Now that we're really settling into this new house, lots of decorations, things like that. So I have to unclaim it and let her reclaim that. But yes, long way to answer that. Yes, I keep it all here. I used to use storage units. I had a 10 by 25, and then I had a 10 by two 10 by 20s at one point. And that's where I used to store all my stuff. I would go during lunch because, like I said, I work full time. And I would go during lunch and get everything that's sold and ship it that night. We moved into this new house. That was one of the big perks of buying this one, is that it had the detached garage, it had a bigger yard for our dogs, and it had space where I could put sheds and expand and keep it all on site to save me that time each day, just so that I didn't have to leave somewhere to go fulfill and ship my items. Drummer said the LL Bean pants that keep on giving. Yeah, exactly. Justin just asked if I'm hitting projections for this year. It's going to be really close. I haven't calculated my numbers this month because I don't want to know. I really want to hit 100K gross across all three platforms if I can. I'm not going to hit 100K just on eBay, which is what I really wanted. I'm definitely not going to hit that, but I think I should hit 100K gross across all three platforms, which I'm really excited about. And I know the next question I was going to ask is what's your margin? My net operating margin last I calculated based on through October. Yeah, through October when I met my accountant was like just at like 38.5, just a hair under 39%. My margin used to be well over 50, and then they've shrunk as I've bulk buy and started to outsource and add things like that. So yeah, it's for a side hobby, as I like to joke about, even though I spend as much time on it as I do my primary job. It's not doing too bad. And the fun part for me right now is like, yeah, I'm really busting butt to get this economy of scale to kick off. Is right now I'm listing 900 items a month, right? It's pretty much a fixed cost to do that. Same type of inventory. And my sales are increasing. Like the amount of items I'm selling is increasing every month, right? Month over month. But I'm not even close to selling 900 items a month. So I will enjoy the profit increasing over time with the same fixed costs of listing and everything as I grow for quite a while before it catches up to that. So I've really developed a nice base and system where 2019 is going to be a really fun year with lots of growth. The question I get all the time. Thanks, Greg. And it's a good question. It's a completely fair question. Is would you go full time and leave your day job? So I answer this pretty much the same way every time. And I've got in years past, I was, I guess I wasn't confident in my answer because I really wasn't sure what I wanted. Nowadays, I'm really sure what I want. So my wife and I, really are connected on what we're trying to accomplish, and we both enjoy real estate. So investing in real estate is something that we both are kind of passionate about and agree on and work on together. We have a townhouse right now that actually we just I got to do a video on an update because people have been asking. They just flipped tenants for the first time. I went through that whole process. I'll have to dedicate a different video to that. But so we both work full time. My wife's very career focused, does really well. And I'm keeping my job basically as long as I possibly can while still growing this so that I can reinvest everything back into real estate to grow that portfolio. I don't have a timetable for how long that is because in my mind, when I've built the scalability while still working 9 to 5, if it can still scale and keep growing at a decent rate and I'm not really slowing it down, then having the base of the day job really helps to reinvest in these other avenues and develop a bigger and bigger and bigger and more secure base. We don't have kids yet. And so it's kind of one of those things where taking advantage and hustling more now will be very beneficial later, especially when the kids come in the picture. The real hope is like bust butt and do both, as long as I can now so that I can enjoy some of those luxuries of like hanging with my kid and spending even, kind of over indexing on that time with my kid that I might not get otherwise if I was just doing one or the other. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm pretty risk averse. I'm a real aggressive person and I'm really goal oriented and really ambitious, but I am at the same time pretty risk averse, which that's odd. But that's just the nature. So I would have to be very sure. I would want this business to be making like double what I'm making at my day job before I left it, if that makes sense. Just because there's a lot more stress associated with not having a steady paycheck coming in and you being responsible for it. That's just how I view it. I think it's different for absolutely everyone. And actually, I'm kind of fascinated by how many people just want to get out of their job so bad that they're willing to leave at the first possible way they can make their bills work with reselling. And it's not a knock. I'm just fascinated by that only because like I enjoy my job. Like I enjoy what I do now. I've changed, and this is funny. I've had 4 jobs since moving to Charlotte in like 3.5 years. And the reason for that is I don't stay in a job if I'm not happy with it. And before that I was in a job for 5.5 years and loved it. Best job I ever had. And then I relocated and I'm a big believer in like, if you're not growing forward and you don't enjoy it, I'm not going to waste time on it. And now I'm in a job I love. I can see myself at it for quite a while while doing both. So long way to answer your question, but I think it needs all the context that it can get. So Fabulous Food said, I find finding a photographer that doesn't change an arm and a leg is very difficult, or charge an arm and a leg is very difficult. Can you touch on that a bit? So I'm probably going to give you the answer you don't want. I pay probably more than you would want to pay. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, once I can find good help, I don't want to lose good help because you can find a way to make it profitable to scale that. And to me, time is the most valuable thing that I can purchase. And if I can purchase it at a fair rate that helps someone else out and helps me out, that's what I'm going to do. I pay $1.25 per item to be photographed and measured and loaded into a Dropbox. And if they're doing a multi-quantity item, like 10 of the same polo shirt, they get $1.25 for the first set of photos. And then I think this is sad, I don't know. I think they're charging 50 cents an item for the multi-quantity, just bag and tag it. Finding photographers, honestly, is the easiest way is just to post on Facebook Marketplace. Just detailed ad of, I run an e-commerce business. I'm looking for someone who has a strong writing background and can describe items visually very well. It's a piece rate opportunity at this much per item. You can make as much as that you can produce, basically, and kind of go from there. Try to target university students, people who have that kind of background, and see where you can go from there. I'm going to take a couple more questions. I got to wrap. I got like 4 minutes. Brandon said, yo, what's up, Luke? It's been a while since I caught you live. Looks like things are moving forward for you. Yeah, Brandon, they're moving forward well. Appreciate you stopping in. I hope all's well for you. Things are going really, really well. No. Not 125 an hour. I don't pay hourly. Sorry. So I only use contractors. sorry, yeah, I want to re-clarify. Not $125 an hour, $1.25, $1.25 per item. So I pay piece rate. I do not do hourly because I can't supervise and I have no place for them to come. So I can't really have employees because I work full time. So I actually have two people who have their own photography businesses that do the, like, basically my work is their filler work in between their bigger gigs. It's steady work for them. And I just charge them, or I pay them piece rate. I set the terms for it. Marco said, how many hours do you put into your business on average? That's a great question. I spend a solid hour and a half every day now pulling items and shipping. It's a pretty big piece of my business. That's 7 days a week, right? So that's 10 and a half hours right there just in shipping a week, like base. If I was to do nothing else in my business, that is. I spend probably another hour each day, sending offers, sharing items strategically during some parties, although I do outsource a lot of my sharing on Poshmark, answering questions, repricing things, those type of things, tweaking titles, running promotions, just the whole deal. Like I spend about an hour a day, throughout the day, probably 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there doing that. So let's just say we're up to 17 hours. I'm just trying to break it down to give context for you so that it's helpful. And then now that I'm doing a little more of the photography, I'm probably spending an hour to an hour and a half average daily on photography. So now we're up to, let's just say 25 hours a week. And then I probably spend another like 3 to 5, what I call like doing organizing, maintenance, bookkeeping, those type of things. I spend a solid 3 hours every week consolidating bins, rearranging, receiving the bins from my contractors, putting them on shelves, things like that. And then, which isn't I wouldn't consider weekly, but like bi-monthly, I'm spending like a solid 8 to 10 hours in a week processing the pallets when they come in, right? Sorting them, breaking them down, organizing them. And there's a lot of like back end stuff too that just kind of chews up some weird time, like breaking down the pallets, like the actual wooden pallets, right? Like they take up spot at my home, so I need to break them and burn them. There's tons of cardboard that comes with it, so figuring out how to get rid of that. So a lot of like that type of stuff takes up some of my time. So yeah, I definitely touch on 30 hours a week on my business solidly. That's, sometimes it over indexes higher, sometimes lower if we're traveling or going on vacations and stuff. That has been the other big perk to having a virtual assistant who is really, really good at what she does, managing my inventory, managing the delisting, all of that. I don't do that anymore, so I can reallocate my time different places, and it allows me to have a little more flexibility, but I'm still spending, I'd say 30 hours is a pretty solid estimate. And now I'm getting back on YouTube, I'm spending probably another 10 hours on YouTube. So the equivalent of like a 40-hour a week between reselling and YouTube. But then this last month with flipping our tenants, which I'll do a more detailed video on that, but having to market that and get them in there, it was the first time I'd really done that because we just had tenants in it for a full year for the first year. So that was an experience. All right. And so someone just said, so Fabulous Foods, I was selling so much stuff I couldn't keep up my listing. I am way down too. Yeah, it's a tough balance, right? I mean, that's a good problem to have. That's what you want as a seller. Brandon said things are moving forward for me. Just had my third daughter in October. My online sales have taken a hit as I have not listed anything in October. Look to hit it harder in the new year. Yeah, for sure. If you're not listing, not selling, but congratulations on the addition of the family. That's awesome. All right, guys, we got 73 watching live. I hate to bow out at the peak here, but hopefully I answered a lot of your questions. I need to wrap up. I need to get down there. I need to ship and do a couple other things. So glad for tuning in. If you're just joining now, feel free to rewatch, find out why I am opening that second store. And I will summarize and say, if you are joining now, I don't think it's necessary to have multiple stores, but I do think there are definitely reasons why. Thanks so much. If you guys could just like the video on the way out. If you're not subscribed, it would mean a lot to me if you did subscribe. That way you're notified when I have videos come out. Feel free to share this with someone who you think it'd be helpful, and definitely leave comments if you agree, disagree, whatnot. I love engaging with everyone. I love really seeing what you guys are up to, what your perspectives are on these topics. And if you have other topics you want to see, let me know, especially as I'm going to start to crack into some of these more basic tutorial stuff. It's good to have that perspective of what to bring to you guys. So have a great day. And someone just asked a quick question on the way out. When shipping ties, how should you ship them? I ship them USPS first class, usually 3 ounces or less every single time in a poly bag. Have a great night, guys. Thanks for stopping in. See ya.